Hey everybody, it's the Racetrack Ladies.
Coming to you live after the Daytona 500 in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Which I guess it was actually more than the Daytona 500. It's Daytona 500 and what, 3?
Yeah.
They said 20.
20? Extra 20 laps?
Well, it was like 2:08. So.
Oh, that's right, because we
Yeah,
had
'cause
2 green-white checkers.
Right. And we won't talk about why we had the second one just yet.
Okay, so today it was race day. It was a beautiful day today. Beautiful sky, nice and breezy.
Very sunny.
And so I personally was waiting in anticipation of where they were going to put the number 3 on the infield because today we were recognizing the 10th anniversary of Dale Earnhardt's death.
But the infield was jammy-packed with people because for our pre-race, we had a concert by Brad Paisley.
Yes, we did. And then we had Martina McBride sing the national anthem, which I thought she did a fantastic job.
And can we just talk about that flyover?
Thunderbirds.
Oh my gosh, the flyover. I don't know which was more awesome, the first time or the second time they came through.
The first time.
Did they come through a second time?
Yes,
Yes,
remember they
did.
came back through and did
That's
their
when
little
they peeled
split off
off.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually waved at a pilot. He was that close.
Yeah, I'm sure he waved back. I think he was
He
a little
did.
busy.
I saw him.
Yeah.
There
mhm.
was a salute. I just didn't see the whole thing.
So I'm just going to say my issue with the number 3 that was on the infield. In my mind, I envisioned something bigger to respect the dude who International Speedway's been basically, commanded by. But they had this little 3 at the end of the infield.
And it was in white. It wasn't black.
I didn't get it.
No.
Well, yeah, it was kind of weird because it's right there at the entrance of pit road, which most people, hit or cross over.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even a respectful place
No.
on the infield. at all.
Well, they really didn't want to make a big deal out of it.
Well, but I'm like, if you're gonna honor him and get it over with. But now you stick this little 3 on the infield way over there, and I'm like, okay, so say you wanted to stick on the infield and didn't want to make a big deal of it. Well, then at least put it in the corner where he actually died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna
They
put
didn't
it-
even put it there.
Yeah.
So I had an issue with that.
But
So-
we did on
She
lap
did.
3. We all stood and held up 3 fingers in honor of Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Yes, we did. And even Jeff Gordon said on his radio, remind me when it's lap 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was really nice. The drivers actually paid attention too. So then the race began. So we had not really Dale Jr. on the pole. We had Kurt Busch on the pole.
Because Dale had to go to a backup car, so he was
Right.
at the end of the
Right.
the lineup.
And overall for the race, how did y'all feel about it?
I thought it was a pretty good race,
It
actually.
was better racing than I expected, given what we have seen since we've been here.
I mean, we've been to a lot of Daytona 500s now.
10.
Our 10th Daytona 500. And out of the 10 that we've been to, this was actually one of the top ones.
Yeah, I think last year was probably more exciting. But
You do?
yeah, I think so. But I was surprised that even with all the 2, I was surprised because I was expecting much worse than what it was.
Yes.
So that it was much better than what I thought it was going to be. I'm like, wow, this actually is a race. And even though my driver was out of contention early on.
Well, I think all of our drivers.
Well, yeah, that.
One hung in
No,
there a little.
only ours.
Let's talk about the melee.
Well,
Which
Let's
one?
talk about the people who stunk up the show.
Yeah. Michael
I'm
Waltrip?
sorry, Nancy. Michael Waltrip. He needs to learn how to drive.
Yeah.
Oh, give me a break.
He kept booting people out of the way and causing wrecks and collecting them.
Well, the
Yes, he
number
was.
of drivers that were taken out in that one incident that either were taken out or had, quite a bit of damage,
It was a lot.
Yeah.
that was a lot. And
Yeah.
if you start looking at the chase drivers from last year, there were a lot of people stuck in
Well,
there.
yeah, so Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth, Mark Martin,
A lot of
Yeah.
It's not that he didn't know how to drive. He knows how to drive, Kathy. He knows how to drive. It was there were certain calls being made on the track, and
Well, he-
Ruderman made a last-minute call that caused the accident.
Right, yeah, okay.
well, that's a story.
Michael said he told what the calls were.
I'm sure everybody had their excuses. but
Everybody
all I
has their
know,
reasons.
2 incidents involve Waltrip, okay?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So, and then we have, of course, Robbie Gordon doing his thing,
my
and Kyle
gosh.
Busch doing his thing.
Oh, my
these are
gosh.
people who just, just don't, they just don't care. They're just, I don't know.
Well, I think Michael Waltrip, who owns teams, does care.
Well, but the drivers are behind the wheel, and the drivers are acting like stupid fools sometimes, trying to make things happen that are not going to happen right away.
right.
And it's like Jeff Gordon said after he got booted out. Why, if you're racing back in the pack, why aren't you let's just do our normal,
Just
the
race.
traditional or whatever, the classic drafting. Why not do that?
Yeah.
You know,
Why
until
are we
you either.
pushing?
Yeah, why push so early?
To go where?
And it wasn't
this
even
is
that they
a
were-
race that has so many twists and turns to it to begin with. Why are you trying to cause more?
Yeah, because people were getting squirrely all over the place. I mean, you had people being turned around all over the place.
And of course, and then we had engine problems.
Oh,
with the
yeah.
Childress.
Oh my gosh.
You know, Earnhardt Childress engine. You know, the first one out is
My guy, J.J. Yaley.
Well, Harvick.
Okay,
And
I
then
was thinking
Harvick.
Harvick.
Well, but J.J. Yaley,
Yes,
his
Yaley
engine
did.
came from ECR.
yeah.
Harvick and
Harvick
then,
and
then
Jeff
Burton.
Jeff Burton, and then
and
later
they've been running
on,
strong.
McMurray. He went
Yeah.
a cylinder
Yeah.
down.
So you wonder, was it the type of racing that caused it, or was it just what? I don't know.
Well, they were telling him not to lean so much on it, or something like that. Towards the end, they were telling the rest of the cars.
Yes. Yeah. They were saying, make sure you
Let's
keep it cool.
salvage
Keep it
something
cool.
here.
Yeah, well,
people-
wait. Why don't we say what Chad told Jimmy Johnson that NASCAR told
You
him
know, I thought
not
it was
to do?
interesting. Yeah, so I was listening to Jimmy Johnson, and Chad Canal said, because Jimmy was asking, like, you know, so do we have the other frequencies or whatever? And Chad's like, you need to keep the changing to different channels to a minimum. And Jimmy said, well, that's kind of hard to understand. What's minimum? And he says, well, essentially, NASCAR doesn't want you doing it.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
y'all didn't hear that?
No, because
Which-
it certainly didn't stop any of the drivers I was
No.
listening to.
So I'm curious to see if we hear any more information about it, because I think, like we had commented yesterday with the nationwide race, these drivers were talking to all sorts of people,
that
not
they
your
normally
teammate.
wouldn't
Right.
talk to.
Yeah.
Right.
Not just their teammates, other manufacturers.
Other manufacturers, yes.
Well, and then the commentators were talking about how I thought this was interesting that in the garage earlier that the crew chiefs were walking around asking for everybody's frequency, and
I'd have handed him my list.
well, and then
Kyle Busch.
Kyle said, "No, if you want to talk, you have to go through my spotter."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that I understood came from the Gibbs organization. They locked it down to where you could only access through the spotter.
Which I found interesting, because, you know, the drivers were doing it themselves. They wanted to be able to talk to each other. It wasn't, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the issue was with being able to do it. I mean, eventually, you know, Kyle Busch was in the fray, I guess, but I guess just not talking to other drivers. I don't know.
Well, he
His
was
spotter was
talking to
pretty
the
busy.
drivers because I heard him
Through the
talking.
spotter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then what I thought was interesting is that they were all like, going, "Will you partner with me?" And then they were like,
Yeah.
"No, I already made a deal with so
I
and
know,
so."
that was weird.
That was
It's
weird.
like-
Well,
I've already
yes.
been asked to the dance.
It was weird. I mean, I struggle still with that part of it. Although the racing was still interesting, because you really did not know who was going to win the race.
No.
There wasn't a particular car. I mean, although you could have sworn probably that the 22 and the 78 were going to get to the front and win the race, but then
Right.
they ended up having some issues. But
Or even the 5 and the 14 getting up there.
you would have thought that would have been
with the
good.
experience they have.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but
Didn't happen.
but
But
that
if
didn't
you
happen
had an
either.
issue and then somebody asked you to do something and you refuse to do it, then what happens if that's the only person left?
Right.
Do they not going to
That's-
help you
yeah.
because you refused them earlier?
Yeah.
It's
I
kinda
don't.
weird.
I don't understand
I don't know.
that.
I don't know how they kiss and make up after the
I
end of
don't
this
know.
race, and become buds again. I don't know.
That's really weird. It was weird
But, yeah, there
listening
was
to them do
record
that.
number cautions, record number lead changes.
And the record number of cautions had to do with, just getting a little bit off of somebody's bumper.
Yeah.
You were turning people
That's all
around.
it took.
So,
So the
because of
winner.
all that, it made it a pretty interesting Daytona 500.
It did make it a pretty interesting Daytona 500, and towards the end, I thought, maybe there was going to be some day of reckoning here for either Tony Stewart or
I
Dale
was
Jr.
hoping.
or my boyfriend, David Reagan.
David Reagan.
Yeah, but on the green, white, checkered restart, we saw David Reagan start, and we shook our heads at each other like,
Is that
doesn't
right?
look
That doesn't look right.
Evidently, it wasn't.
Evidently it wasn't, and he was black flagged.
I was
He,
so sad because I'm such a David Reagan supporter.
she is.
And I was all prepared to go to the Champions Breakfast tomorrow morning with David Reagan.
Not
Yes.
going to happen.
But
No.
yeah,
Not
what
gonna
he
happen.
passed, what he
He didn't
moved.
maintain his
He didn't
lane.
maintain his lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't maintain position
Yeah.
before he crossed the line.
So then after that, then we have the final restart, and the next green white checkered, and so then you had Trevor Bayne and Tony Stewart on the front
Right.
row, and I'm like, well,
Of course.
Tony
But-
Stewart.
Stewart.
Mark Martin couldn't keep locked to his bumper.
Yeah.
So,
Did not work.
but he had already had issues during the race. So.
The cute little Trevor, he was before
He
the
was
green,
cute.
white, checkered. He was like, "What do I do? what do I do? Where do I go?" And they were like, "Well," and he goes, "Who do I get in front of? Which lane do I pick?" And they go, "Oh, Too late. You already passed the green.
You already chose it.
It already picked it for you. He's like, well, then what do I do? And they were like, just go fast. And they were like, what? And he's like, what? And he go, just go really, really fast. And he's like, okay.
But he had Bobby Labonte behind him, which I was happy about as well.
Yeah,
Seeing
Texas.
the
Yay,
Labonte
Texas.
brothers up front was really, really cool.
They said the 47 is going to push you. And I went, who's in the 47?
I knew it was in the 47.
So it was Bobby, and Bobby pushed him really hard. We were all cheering for Trevor.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you had Carl Edwards and who was Carl Edwards with?
Gilliland.
It was-
Yeah,
yeah,
David Gilliland.
Gilliland.
All of a sudden, they would come out of nowhere.
I know.
Yeah.
Where'd they
We
Yeah.
thought there was going to be another wreck.
Yeah, we thought there was going to be another wreck, but no. But then they came along, and then Tony Stewart fell way back.
Well,
and,
he
The
just-
crowd
they
was on their feet.
They roared.
They were roaring for Trevor.
Because we all lost our drivers.
But I think we were all more excited that the Wood Brothers got another Daytona 500
Amen.
win, because the Wood Brothers have been in NASCAR since
Oh.
the very beginning. And there was a Daytona 500 where they did not have a car.
Yes.
They
Which was
never
ve-
gave
they
up.
never gave up.
Always there.
and they
35
have
years
not.
It's been.
They've not
Yeah.
been the mega teams like the Roush and the Childress and the Hendrick.
Right.
But I did think it was interesting though. I mean, at the end of the race, I mean, I think everybody was so excited that Trevor Bayne won because he had been the pusher everybody wanted
For everybody.
all week long. Everybody wanted Trevor behind them because he did such a great job pushing.
And he had a great car.
Yeah,
Yes.
he did. So I wonder if it's those Ford engines, and if it's those Ford engines, then I think we have a
Watch
lot to be thinking
out.
about
Well, there
this
were
year.
3 Fords.
Maybe
1, 2,
Ford's
3.
finished in the top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, go figure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he was so cute. He goes, where do I go?
I don't even, what am I supposed to do?
Am I dreaming? He's so cute.
It's and it's refreshing to have a guy like that who says a
Yes.
prayer with his team before he goes off racing, and then thanks
Very
God.
well-spoken young man.
Yeah,
And
he's a good
then,
guy.
you know when you're old?
Yes,
His-
when you're old.
His hero is Jeff Gordon.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, didn't they say that Trevor was born when Jeff started racing?
that hurts right there.
I thought that was what they said.
Well, that's an interesting point because Jeff has been racing in Winston or next whatever Sprint Cup, whatever we're calling it, since 92, 93.
Yeah.
Well, Trevor
He just turned 20. Yeah.
Oh,
So-
my
Wow.
goodness.
That hurts right
congratulations
there.
to the 21 and
Yeah.
the entire team. You guys did a great job.
Yeah,
Yes.
congratulations to. I want to give props to Bobby Labonte. I thought he did really good.
Yay, Bobby.
Bobby.
Rooting
Go
for
for
you.
it, Bobby.
Yeah. All right, so I think that about wraps up Speed Weeks this week.
We had a blast.
We hope that you've
Yes.
enjoyed
well-
following us along.
Well, we're going to go to the championship.
Oh, that's
breakfast
right. We'll let you
tomorrow.
know how that goes.
We'll give you a heads up on that one.
Maybe David Pearson will be there.
Yeah.
Probably not. Okay,
I
well,
can hope.
it's time for us to go grab some grub. We're hungry.
Hungry and we're sunburned.
Windburn.
All right, so our day is coming to a close. Just nearly 12 hours later. So be sure to check with us often on Facebook and on Twitter. And until next time, we'll be at the track and going green.